All right, boys. I'm going to dive right in because I don't have that long day. I have like 20 minutes. But I wanted to keep the habit alive, so here we are. Last time, or yesterday, we left off on racism and how racism is an example of the anti-conceptual mentality. And I want to think through why that is the case. So I've got some definitions written down. The racist. If you can. Oh wait, there. That camera. We've got. Probably can't see this, but anti-conceptual mentality and racism. Got the definitions there, and we're gonna try to relate the two. Figure out why racism is an example of the anti-conceptual mentality. So, anti-conceptual mentality, a passivity toward forming concepts and identifying fundamental principles. It's like a passivity or a refusal to do so. Racism is the notion of ascribing moral, social, or political significance to a man's genetic lineage, that a man's intellectual and characterological traits are produced and transmitted by his internal body chemistry. So basically, you say this person is good or bad. I think primarily good or bad, or deserves a certain place in society because of genetic characteristics, specifically genetic characteristics that give rise to skin color, which is stupid because you don't choose those things, and those things have no bearing on your character. What has bearing on your character are your choices. And because we have free will, you can choose to act in a way that is moral or immoral, regardless of your skin color. How is racism an example of the anti-conceptual mentality? Well, okay. So this is what I wrote down. So, and then for in the example of a racist person, they're associating a given set of concretes or people of a certain skin color with a certain moral status, and usually it's bad. Instead of identifying the fundamental principles that govern moral status, which is free will and a person's choices and actions. So rather than making that identification and understanding, oh, this person, he has free will, he can choose to be a good person or a bad person, and I should judge him depending on what he does. Instead, it's just like, this person is black, Asian, Latino, whatever, therefore he is good, bad, immoral, lazy. Pick your thing, which has no basis in fact. It's just a heuristic. It's just a rule it's just a heuristic with no conceptual logical chain that connects it to reality. So there's no basis for it. But rather than do the hard thinking of figuring out, oh, people have free will, oh, this person's made good choices, therefore he's a good person, or acts with virtue, therefore he's a virtuous, good person, I should hang out with him because he's a cool guy. It's instead you just like, he is black, therefore he is bad, or he is white, therefore he is bad or good, whatever you pick your color, and it's just dumb. So that makes general sense to me. So okay, cool. I think we're good on that. Xenophobia is an example of the anti-conceptual mentality, which is the hatred of foreigners. I should write that down. Okay. In the case of xenophobia, it's still a heuristic. Because someone is a foreigner, he is bad. And there's no understanding that what makes someone good or bad is their choices, and the reason they can make choices is free. So they don't have this conceptual change to figure out what makes a person good or bad. And so because of that, they just have this blank heuristic. If this person has this trait, they are bad. If this person has this trait, they are good. Any caste system, it's a similar thing. Rather than ascribing people's social status, which I think social status is pretty stupid in general, but rather than letting someone rise in society based on merit and what they actually produce, what they actually do, you place someone into a bucket, like within a social hierarchy based on their family, their parents, who they were born to, what their last name is, which is dumb because that has no bearing on someone's worth or achievement or what they've done in life, and it's unchosen. So yeah, caste system is an example of the anti-conceptual mentality, and it's quite evil. Oh, roommate's coming down. Let me quiet the mic. You guys still hear me? Am I more quiet? Okay, I think that's better. All right, back to where we were. Pretty much any example of tribalism is an example of the anti-conceptual mentality. And I think one of the keys that I'm noticing here with this mentality is relying on heuristics rather than concepts. By heuristics, I just mean mental shortcuts or very simplified models. And some heuristics are good in order to make quicker decisions. Many heuristics are bad because they're not in line with, they're not accurate, but they are quicker. So there's trade-offs. But it seems like the anti-conceptual mentality is just basically, instead of understanding a long conceptual chain that explains why something is true or false, you just replace that with a heuristic, a simple yes or no, like a simple pattern recognition, which is bad because those are often wrong, and especially in cases where you're ascribing moral status, moral, like if someone is a good or bad person, that's really bad because you don't want to get that wrong, because that is a very, like that's a bold and definitive judgment on someone, and you want to make sure that's correct if you're going to make a moral judgment on someone. So I was going to write something down. Oh, tribalism. Manifestations of the anti-conceptual mentality. All right. Okay, so Rand's claiming tribalism is a dominant element in Europe. I mean, I think it's dominant in the West in general. If you just look at identity politics and politics in general, it's very tribal. What is chauvinism? Don't know what chauvinism is. Rule by 4. Oh, interesting. So tribalism takes the form of ethnic neighborhoods, huh? So I wonder if this is a bit of an oversimplification, because I don't know. There is something cool about going to different areas within a city that have different cultures, and like I think there's definitely value in that. I wouldn't just call that a bad thing because it's traditional. Um, but it depends on why someone is establishing a like cultural center in a city. If it's because they value the culture, like first-handedly, they're like, oh, this is really cool. I love these things that we do. I think they're very, I don't know, life-serving, and like they make my life better. Great. But if it's just, I'm going to maintain this tradition because I feel like I have a duty to do so, or an obligation to my ancestors, that's generally bad, I would say, because it can get in the way of what you actually want to do with your life. So, but I don't think like cultural centers within cities are a bad thing wholesale. It depends on why they've been established. I do agree with this though, like this sentence here. Like if a person like is refusing to, like they very much still cling to their tribe within a city and their traditions at the expense of adopting other practices and like trading with other people, like in a business, let's say, they're not gonna do as well as other businesses that will trade with other people and whose main goal is simply to make profit. And so they're not going to be as well off financially. They're not going to be as wealthy. So I kind of get the point there. There was no harm in such backwards. Yep. Again, backwards, kind of a harsh term. I mean, if they literally are backwards, that's one thing, but it seems a bit harsh. The pressure of enlightenment by example is undercutting the group loyalty. Tribalism is a product of fear, and fear is the dominant emotion of any person, culture, or society that rejects reason. Yeah. Kind of makes sense. If we live by means of reason, meaning we live by thinking, like observing the world, thinking, coming up with a plan, executing the plan, reflecting on the plan, that's how we live, that's how we do stuff, that's how we make food, that's how we do, work in our jobs, is like, oh, I have this task or project, okay, how do I do it? Blah, blah, whatever, you're thinking. If you reject thinking, generally at least, you're going to have a lot of fear because you live by means of thinking. And if you reject thinking, then you reject your means of living. And if you do that, well, that's not good. You can't live. And if you can't live, well, that's scary. Holy shit. We don't want that. This is a good sentence, though. Very powerful sentence. Yeah, pressure groups is a great example of tribalism, I imagine. Okay, Rand's making a bunch of specific claims about philosophy again. I cannot verify these because I haven't read any of this philosophy. Like, she's making, like, this claim. Pragmatism lobotomized the country's intellectuals. Progressive education established a method of crippling a child's conceptual faculty and replacing cognition with social adjustment. No idea if any of that's true, because I have not read John Dewey. I will read him at some point, but right now that's just a claim Rand's making. I will say our education system is pretty not good. At least public school. I went to public school and it wasn't great. At least where I was at. Like, I don't feel like I learned much. I felt like a lot of stuff was a good waste of time. Like, I didn't need to learn those things. All right. Yeah, this is interesting. I think this claim is true, although I haven't really looked into like specific examples, but it strikes me as sensible. A lot of activists, both on the left and the right, that you see today, they're very much. I think they're probably prime examples of the anti-conceptual mentality. Like, there's a lot of chanting, not arguing. Like, they don't actually. They're just repeating slogans, generally. But if you question them on the slogans, they'll get defensive. They'll assume you're a bad person, an evil person, and call you evil and bad. And how dare you question these things? Like, you should just know it. But I think at the base of it is they don't know the reasons why they're, at least they don't know the fundamental arguments and reasons for why they're protesting what they're protesting for. Yep, demanding, not achieving, in feeling, not thinking. It's very, yeah, a lot of activism is very much emotion based, and there's a place for that, I think. Like, but I've actually thought about this for myself. Like, passion and like intense emotion toward it, especially toward an issue, like a political issue or really any issue, cannot come before understanding that issue in and out, because otherwise you're going to be guided by emotion rather than what's true, and that's not good because you want to be guided by what's true. And so passion's fine, but you need to have first a very sophisticated, I would say a fairly sophisticated depth of understanding of a certain issue. So like if you're protesting, I don't know, Israel versus Palestine, whatever side of the issue, you better understand what the fuck's going on in that conflict very deeply, and not just have a very surface level understanding, or at least understand the essentials of what's going on. Otherwise, you're just mouthing slogans with no, like you're mouthing surface level slogans without that connection to, oh, this is why I'm saying this. This is why I'm protesting this. There's no why. There's no understanding of the why. Okay, I need to go quite soon, but I'm just going to finish this paragraph. Yeah, there is a focus on the noun today. I would say that seems true. A return to nature, to earth, to the mud, to physical labor, i.e., yeah. I mean, so this is mostly referring to the environmentalism. Granted, I think there's like technology is amazing, production's amazing. I think the environmental movement, concern for the environment, I think is very valid. If the environment, the environment is like the natural world, is how we live. It's partly how we live. Of course, we recombine the natural world into ways that suit our needs. But if you destroy the natural world, or because it becomes inhospitable, then we can't live. So that's bad, and that's why it's important to take care of the natural world. But I see what she's saying. Like, okay, whatever. I'm not gonna get into this now. Okay, that's enough. All right, boys, I gotta go. Got a meeting to hop on. My camera froze again. I need to look into that. Oh, it's not a great photo to freeze on, but that's okay. All right, boys. I'll see you guys tomorrow.